5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight we have a great show for you. My dad and Jeremiah are here to talk about all things NBA and a little bit of NHL hockey. The Lightning is moving on, and Jeremiah, we're going to talk about the Panthers as well. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Before we get into the NBA, I want to bring in Jeremiah real quick. So we're going to talk about the hockey league a little bit. So Jeremiah, the Panthers and the Lightning will face off in the second round. So Jeremiah, what are your thoughts? You know, I'm a Lightning fan. You're a Panthers fan. What are your thoughts about what's going to happen in the series?
Well, when it comes to this series, it's going to be very interesting. You having the Florida Panthers. Now, we faced each other last season when it came to that first round. But, of course, Lightning got the best of us. You know, they're a great, strong team. They're coming off a two-peat. They're trying to go for their three-peat right now. So experience and just, getting there. For the Panthers, on the other hand, they have just made their first playoff win since 1996. That's a big drought for us, and it's a big celebration. But they also have a big task ahead of them. Although that the Lightning went to Game 7, just a couple of days ago, they got to come right back and then versus the Panthers, which had a Game 6. So it's going to be very difficult, and I feel like it's going to come down to, I probably would say Game 6. I'll go to Game 6. I'm hoping my Panthers win, but I wouldn't be mad if the Lightning did either because I want both teams to represent Florida in a big way.
Yes, and I'm going to say Lightning in 6. We're going to talk about that. I'm calling it now Lightning in 6. But so let's get into the NBA so we can bring in Dad and Jeremiah. So let's talk about it. So these Game 7s happened yesterday, and one Game 7 we weren't expecting. The other one, I kind of expected it. So let's talk about the unexpected one. Suns and Mavericks. Suns are at home. It's Game 7. You expect the Suns to win this series. They get blowed out. There was no way for them to come back in the series. There was no way for them to come back in the game. So, Dad, I want to start with you. What was your reaction to the Mavs destroying the Suns in the Suns arena?
Well, it's just like anybody else. The team with the best record in the league coming in, and for them to get dominated like that in a closeout game, that's extremely concerning. I know that when the coach was during the press conference, the Suns coach, kind of said it was one of those games, but that just cannot happen in a closeout game with the top team. For Chris Paul, it's getting to that point. Chris Paul will be 38 here pretty soon, and it's getting to that point with Chris Paul. Like, is it ever going to happen? Booker has to be that guy, that high scorer, that consistent, because Paul is going to distribute the ball properly. He's a very accomplished point guard, but these guys are going to have to pick up the slack because he's not technically the guy. It has to be one of these guys that are these up-and-coming stars to take over this team, and he could be a complimentary player. So it's a very disappointing season. I don't know how many more seasons Chris Paul can keep playing at such a high level and getting close to the dance and then falling off each year. This year he was healthy and would have been his best opportunity because there's also no LeBron out there. So it's been his best opportunity to make it there, but he just didn't make it happen.
Yeah, I was very shocked when how the Mavericks destroyed him. I was very shocked. So it was one of those moments where you look at the Suns, and they were like you said, that they were the best team in the regular season. They won on both sides, but on both Western Conference and Eastern Conference, they were the best team overall. So even if they did make it to the finals, they would have still had the first 2 games at home and different things like that. But when you look at Devin Booker, I want to start with him first. I cannot give him superstar yet, and I know people were trying to give him that crown, give him that edge to say, okay, he can be a superstar, but I have not seen superstar from Devin Booker quite yet. Not saying he can't get there, but right now I have not seen it. When you're in a situation like this, when you're at home in your arena and it's game 7, these are the games that you must win, especially against a Mavericks team that you are favored to win over. When you look at Chris Paul, Dad, the time is ticking for him. He just turned 37 a couple of weeks ago. And ever since he did turn 37, it looked like he got worse. He had 4 straight games where he was terrible. He was terrible. And I'm going to show you some, give some stats out here. So in the game, Chris Paul had 10 points. Him and Booker combined for 21 points together. That is horrible. And then when you look at the team overall, they shot very poorly. I think it was 20% from the field. It was bad. When you cannot win a game like that, scoring that and not shooting correctly. And then when you look at the other side of the ball, Luka had what, 35 points in the whole game. Then you had Dinwiddie, and he's a big piece to the Dallas Mavericks, also from Brooklyn. He had 30 points. And then Brunson, he had 24 points. So Luka had help. And when I tell you, this Mavericks team, if they can get consistent, play out all these guys, there's going to be a very, very different series when it comes to them in Golden State in the Western Conference. But I'm very disappointed in the Suns. This Suns team does not look like it didn't look like a complete team that I thought they would be. DeAndre Ayton, he's becoming a bust to me. And yes, I'm 100% mean that, because he's not aggressive. You're a big man, and you're just getting toyed with. Luka had his way with him yesterday, so it was terrible. But Jeremiah, to you, what is the Suns going to look like next season? Like, what are we going to see from the Suns next season? Are they going to be back? Are they going to be the same team that's going to, have the best record in the league? What are they going to look like?
Well, I would say for their team, their majority going to have a lot of their guys back. But the biggest question I would say is with Aiden. When it comes to Aiden, just last season, before he came into this season right here, he was already in difficulties with his organization, them not going all the way in on him with a max deal. Now, his contract is up after this season right here. So he can walk, or the Suns can do a sign and trade. For the Suns, right, I would say do a sign and trade to get yourself some other assets, some competitors, some different ones that you kind of need. When it comes to Aiden, he's a very tall and lengthy guy, but at the same time, he doesn't have that instinct of I'm going to attack you. I'm going to punish you when it comes to just who I am. And I think when it comes to Chris Paul, I don't think for the Suns you should be going so forward in having him being your best player. You have these young guys around him for a reason. When it comes to Devin Booker, when it comes to Bridges, people can't. They have to remember Bridges was 3rd place in the defensive poll when it comes to being the defensive player of the year. Yep. And then you have people that's off the benches like a Jay Crowder. You also have like Cameron Payne. You also have JaVale McGee. You have these different ones that it can't always rely on CP3 to always save you all the time. And then it always comes on you. When it comes to Devin Booker, you're a very young player. And this is your team. This should be a part of your team. But the problem with Devin Booker is he doesn't have that number 1 mentality. He has that. He's a number 2 player. He is a number 2 player that just like, I'm not going to take the leader standpoint, but I will get you a bucket.
I agree.
And those things.
When you, not to cut you off, but when you look at this whole Suns team, they have a team to win a championship. You mentioned JaVale McGee, Jay Crowder, Payne. You mentioned all these guys. And then, of course, you have the top 2, which is Chris Paul and Booker. They have to show up. There was times where we seen Jay Crowder, he can get you 15 or 20 points, and he can just go off and have, shoot threes, but it's not consistent enough. You bring these guys in, especially a guy like JaVale McGee, who has won championships before with Golden State, and then he had one with the Lakers. So you expect these guys that have experience to come in and add an edge to the team where you still have young talent that are up and coming. The Suns do not look like that complete team, and it's not like they can't be, but for Chris Paul, the time is ticking for him. The time is to win now.
And they can't max out everybody. Look, they can't max out every single player because literally Chris Paul, they're trying to see if he's going to get a max. Devin Booker, if he gets an All-NBA this year, he is going to get a max deal. He is eligible for that. And also Aiden's looking for that. And I have a big problem today when it comes to also max deal. I don't understand these players are getting money, but at the same time, these players have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done for me lately? That's my mentality. Aiden, last year you got beat up when it came to guarding Giannis.
Giannis, yeah, in the finals.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my thing. And many people, they do forget. If Kawhi was playing in that Clippers game that they played before, would it be a different outcome?
Yeah.
Would it have been a different series? So that thing goes into play, and it's like, what are they going to build on? Are they going to have the same mindset, still get bounced in the playoffs next season? I don't know.
But we'll definitely see what's going to go on with the Suns. I don't really have high expectations now because of the past 2 years. I haven't seen. Yeah, they made it to the finals last year, so that was the step. And then you take a step back into the playoff run and trying to get back to that finals. But we're going to go into the Eastern Conference now. Celtics, Milwaukee. Celtics, they get Milwaukee out of there. Celtics are the number one defensive team. Since Milwaukee's another team that I thought, hey, Giannis, this is your time to take over. This is your time to say, hey, I'm here and I'm going to stay here and I'm the best in the league. What happened? Let's bring you in. When it comes to the Celtics and Bucks game, what was your reactions? And, a lot of people call Giannis the best player on the planet. Him losing, does that erase him from that conversation?
Well, it's kind of tough because when you're a young up and coming athlete that's he's built a pretty decent resume for himself, also having a championship. I mean, he has the ability to lose a championship and still hold the mantle, but at the same time, what is this team going to look like next year? It's the same team. So what are we going to do next year? I do think Giannis has to evolve his game as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a physical phenom. He's very lengthy, tall, athletic, good footwork. But I think to take his game to the next level is what a lot of your other dominant players had to do, is develop some sort of mid-range jumper, something to take the pressure off. Because what's happening, these teams are putting up walls against him, the good team, and what's happening, he's having a hard time getting to his spots. And I think with that being said, if he starts to develop an outside, now it doesn't have to be a long-range jumper, but something mid-range to where he just really has more tools in his bag, I think that with his dominance already, he'll be unstoppable with that, because then he'll be able to save his body. He'll also be able to put a lot more pressure on the defense, which will open up a lot more for his other team. And I think that'll give him more rhythm. But I think that, and Giannis seems like the type of player that's going to work on. He's going to go back and look at, some of the things that happened in the series. And I think he's the type of player that will turn that corner, because if he is the best is always going to go find a way to become better, because they're going to be fanatical about preparation. So if he says, they did this to me and they slowed me down, then how can I counteract that? And I think a mid-range jumper would be perfect in that situation.
And that's very important, because even in this series, the Celtics built a wall to prevent him from getting to the rim as frequently as he does. And Milwaukee, the difference in the series is, of course, they didn't have Chris Middleton, which is their second best player behind Giannis. Drew Holiday was up and down this series, but he did play better last night, but it wasn't good enough for them to win. But when you look at Milwaukee, they have to have the threes get down in order for them to have won this series. And because defensively, they had a game plan against Giannis. We're going to keep him from getting to the paint. That's where he is most lethal, and he's able to kick it out to all these guys, and the guys did not capitalize on the perimeter. But Jeremiah, I want to bring you in. What does, being that we look at Milwaukee and we see that they lost, and you win.
I'm sorry, Jasmine. Your sound cut off a little bit when it came to everything. The last question. Well, when it comes to me, when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion, when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks, for their next stands, I feel like when it came to their leadership, I think it's a certain a stoppage. Because with me, when it comes to Milwaukee Bucks, I think they need to build off of their bench. Right now, you can't really trust too much of Matthews. You have Brooke Lopez on the bench, and then you also have these other assets that really didn't show up for you when the time that he really needed them. Just like when it came to Giannis when he played that game 6, they really could have closed Boston out if they really had a chance. But at the same time, when they didn't close them out, is only because he didn't have the other assets that was around him, and because also Middleton was out. But at the same time, this team's supposed to be deep enough to to do something. It can't always be relied on Giannis and always on Middleton and always on Drew Holiday. It has to be the other ones involved. When they needed 3-pointers, nobody was around. When they needed certain stops and everything else, nobody was around. And I feel like when it comes to Milwaukee going forward, they need to make those certain changes and stuff, because you just can't be reliant on those 3 guys, because then defenses are going to make those walls and also going to make the things that you said for them to not, to make everybody else make a basket. They're going to force everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll definitely see what Milwaukee's going to look like next season. I still think they're going to be one of those teams to be consistent and be winning next year. I think they're going to be one of the top seeded teams. Not sure if they're going to make it back. I'm going to see if Giannis evolves, like my dad said, was talking about him expanding his game and different things like that. But we'll be right back shortly for a quick break from our sponsors, Rent the One Ring and the Smoke Shack. We'll be right back. See you back for a exclusive talking about the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll be right back.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear, because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impressions Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impressions Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impressions Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impressions Sports Talk. And the voices you heard from our sponsors was Kelly Johnson and Dion Hunter. And if you want to get voiceover work done, you can contact Leon Thomas at leonthomasgroup.com to get more information on that. So we're going to welcome back Dad and Jeremiah for our final conversation, Eastern Conference Final and Western Conference Final. So we're going to start with the Eastern Conference Final. Since Jeremiah, you're a Heat fan, this is going to be a big showdown between the top 2 defensive teams, the Miami Heat and the Celtics. Jeremiah, what is your expectation? What should the Heat do in order to be successful and move on to the finals?
My biggest thing is probably efficiency, because when it comes to Miami, I know many times we can get so great when it comes to our defense that sometimes our offense can be off a lot of different times. And it seems like that when it came to the 76ers series. You saw first two games they were shooting lights out, and plus was doing great on the defensive side without Joel Embiid. But as soon as Joel Embiid came back in those 3 and 4 games, game 3 and game 4, they couldn't knock down any shots. From behind the 3-point line, we was 20-something% and just going lower and lower and lower until we got back home, and then we kind of got, our vibe back and just our feel for the game, and also having that confidence back. And going against Boston is going to be defensive heavy on both sides. That's why I think it's going to be incredible for this whole series. And that's why I have the Heat going within 6 games, because although that, I know the Celtics can shoot lights out when it comes to many times, but I know sometimes they can get very cold when it comes to shot selection and everything else. But they have a great coach on their side, and I think it's going to be, a dogfight when it comes to both teams. It's going to go down to the last straw.
I agree. I have the Heat in 7, though. Why I say that is I think it's going to, of course, this series is going to be a battle, but I think the biggest player in this series is going to be Jimmy Butler. We're going to see if Jimmy Butler can finally get over the hump, because he's been to the finals. They played the Lakers a couple of years ago in the bubble. Now we're going to see, okay, Jimmy, it's time for you to take over and say, this is my league right now. And when I look at it, if he is able to capitalize, because overall I do think he is the best player on both sides, on both teams. Of course, you got Jason Tatum and a lot of great guys, but I think Jimmy Butler is the leading guy, and he has to be good. He has to be perfect for all these games. He has to average at least. I'm gonna give him 30 points a game for them to get over this hump. But I do have the Heat in 7. Dad, what about you? What is your prediction for this series?
I like Jason Tatum. I think he's one of those young talents, and it's time for him to emerge. I mean, now he's in a situation. I mean, you got to think we're in a situation where there's no LeBron in the playoffs. So now we got a bunch of different names. I mean, of course, you got Steph and those guys over there, but it's time for Jason Tatum to take. And I do think that the Boston Celtics, to me, I think that they're going to win the series. And it might be a little bit, they might win the series in 6. I just feel that Tatum and those guys are really going to, they're going to play well. They're going to play good defense. But Miami has that grit. Yes, I do like Jimmy Butler. You can say that experience is on their side in this situation. But really, both of them are trying to get the same thing, and neither one of them really. I mean, if you think about the championship, that was a weird year. With the bubble and all that, but I think that I do think that Boston's going to win, going to edge them out.
Yeah, I do agree, because when it comes to also Boston too, they also have Horford that wasn't there when they played in the bubble before.
Yeah.
So this is a different addition. So I think a lot of it's the two biggest players I'm really going to see that's going to do something is probably Horford and Bam. Both of them are big sizes, and you're going to see what they can do, because both of them can shoot. Not Bam can shoot in the range, of course, as Horford does when it comes to his threes, but quickness-wise, both of them can get there, and both of them going to be aggressive when it comes to down low. Different how it was when at Milwaukee series and also the Nets series. I think it's going to be just a great matchup for both teams.
Yeah, I see what you both are saying, but like I said before, I think this has to be a Jimmy Butler series. I like Tatum. Tatum is one of the young talents in this league that are up and coming, but for Heat, and I still have the Heat in 7, but for Heat to get to that next level and get to that championship, Jimmy Butler has to be Jimmy Buckets. He has to be 100% Jimmy Buckets. You have a lot of complementary players that both teams have, and like Dad said, they're both trying to get the same thing, but Jimmy's been in this league long enough. He's seen the best of them. He's played a lot against a lot of great guys. He has to be Jimmy Buckets in this series. He has to compete how he did in the first game against the Lakers in that bubble when he went 45 points. He has to be that same way in this series, and that's where I'm gonna leave it at. But we're gonna head to the Western Conference, Mavs and Golden State. Now I think this series is gonna be more offensive, because I think both teams are not good defensively like that. They can be had on the defensive side of the ball. But Jeremiah, what is your take on can the Mavs beat Golden State? We all know what Golden State stands for. They're probably overall the more experienced team because of what they've done for the past few years and where they've been. And Curry and Clay both have 3 rings, and Draymond, this team was built from the ground up. What do you see happening in this series? Who do you have winning?
Well, for me, I have Mavs going 6. I'm gonna tell you the big reason I have Mavs in 6, because I already know right now. Many people, that they're liking the Mavs, but at the same time, a lot of people are not expecting the Mavs to go any further. I would say the biggest pressure is mostly on Golden State, having everybody back. You guys just beat when it came to the Grizzlies, the top team that was above you guys. But at the same time, you guys are the biggest experienced ones, and they thinking that, oh, Golden State's going to win this, maybe within 6 or everything else. But at the same time, anybody on their team, Draymond, I don't think that anybody can really stop Luka when it comes to him. Now, like I so told you yesterday, the Mavs go as far as, their bench goes as well, because Luka's going to get his. He's going to have himself a great game. But at the same time, they're still without Tim Hardaway Jr., and it's on the other ones, like Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, he had a huge game last night in that blowout. When it comes to Bullock, and also the other ones that's around, they need to be knocking down their jumpers, because if you give Golden State the opportunity, they will take those opportunities and turn them to bigger opportunities and then bigger ones, and then you can see yourself getting back into the game. But I have the Mavs on the edge because I just think that Jason Kidd's going to push them defensively, and plus for them to actually go to that next level. And also Luka, he's doing great when it comes to his facilitating, when it comes to realizing and everything.
My heart is telling me to go with the Mavericks because I want the Mavericks to win. But logically, based off of experience, I believe the Golden State Warriors will win in 7. I think we're going to have both. To me, I'm predicting another game 7 on both in both series. But when you look at I would be concerned if I'm Golden State. I have Golden State winning this series in 7, but I would be concerned. You went to a game 7. Was it game 7 or game 6? I know it was game 6. When you look at both these teams, you had to battle out with a John Morant-less team in game and get to game 6 as a Golden State Warriors team. That is very concerning. And then when you look at it, their best defender got suspended in game 2. And that altered a lot of how the series was going to go. Then, of course, John Morant gets injured. And then, of course, Golden State is going to do what they're going to do. They're going to shoot your lights out. It's going to be a landslide for the other team. So they didn't have a chance. This Mavs team is very gritty, and they believe they can do it. They believe that they can go in there and battle. They just battled with the number 1 team in the league. And they believe 100% we can go play with Golden State, because I think offensively, both these teams are going to be shooting a lot of threes. I expect high scoring games. You'll see a lot of high scores. I believe that 100%. But in order for the Mavericks to win, if they have a chance to win, those guys like Dinwiddie, those guys like Brunson, the bench, they have to step up and give Luka those same points they did last night. You cannot beat Golden State with just one guy averaging 30 plus a game. Just one guy, it's not going to work. So in order for the Mavs to win, they have to have those other guys around him to score and get to the basket, and they have to get those guys to perform at a high level on the 3-point line. So, Dad, for you, who do you have winning this series?
Golden State, and it's simply because of experience. I don't really put too much on the series with John Morant's team. For the simple fact is it's all about matchups. It's week to week, just like NFL, any given Sunday. The thing is, there's a series. Golden State did exactly what they typically do. They pulled it out and they won. And the fact that they do have a full squad, I just think that they have too much for the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks is one of those teams that we're sitting here surprised that they beat the Suns. Now, that's because we expected the Suns to go ahead and win that series, but they didn't. Now, I do think with Golden State, the problem is I don't think that Luka is going to be a problem, But outside of Luka, you got other guys that can play, but you still have Steph over there doing what he does. He stretches the floor. The man's a sharpshooter, and that's not going to change. And you got Clay out there and Draymond facilitating as well. I just think they're going to have too much for them to keep up with, because when you say Luka makes that thing go. I think that they're going to do some things to kind of slow him down a little bit. And I think that, like you said, it's going to be an offensive series. But if I had to go with a team that I believe has the better, I would say, the more consistent track record, and the nucleus is still there, that would be Golden State. And also, even if the Mavericks start to, may edge them out, I don't know, they still have to get over the nerves of being in that dance.
You're right.
So that's another part of it, the psychological part of the game. So I am looking at the Golden State Warriors to go ahead and take the series.
So Dad and Jeremiah, if I have this correctly, I'm writing it down currently. So Jeremiah or Dad, you have Golden State and Celtics in the finals. Okay,
yes, I do.
Hold on. Warriors versus Celtics. Jeremiah, you have Mavs versus Heat in the finals.
Yes.
I have Golden State and Heat in the finals. What do we think about that? Dad, what do you think about your pick? Warriors and Celtics.
Well, the reason I feel that way, I think it's time for the Celtics to turn the corner. And that's why I go, and it's time for Jason Tatum. He was that young talent that everybody was really excited about. And I think it's time for him to go ahead and move forward. Also, on Golden State side, it's just the experience I think is too much for the Mavericks. Now, when you look at Luka, yes, Luka is that star. Is it time for Luka to turn the corner? Hey, maybe so. He's already been one of the most talked about players. The guy's dominant. He really cooks out there. But I just think Golden State has too much firepower, and I think they're going to be able to slow them down enough to where the Mavericks won't be able to actually overcome that. So I do believe that it's going to be those two teams. I really do.
Jeremiah, you have Mavs and Heat. Why did you pick that?
Well, when it comes to Mavs and Heat, I mean, this is the whole tiebreaker right here.
Okay.
We played Mavs in 2006. We got the best of them with Wade and Shaq. In 2011, they beat us, with a broken LeBron that year. I'm not going to talk about that. But it's a time for us, if we have that rematch again, that will settle all scores to see, who's the superior out of that whole series that we have played, especially in the finals. And I think it's just going to be great ratings as well. Even without LeBron in there or at all, you're still going to have Luka out there. You're still going to have just new faces out there that many people can be excited about and just watch and then see, and also have those memories of like, oh, I remember this and I remember that. And then kind of just seeing these new guys just go at it.
And me, I have Warriors and Heat. Why I say that? Warriors have the experience. They have Draymond. They have Clay. They have Steph Curry. That nucleus has been there for the past 5 years. Then the Heat, I think Jimmy Butler is the best player in the series overall, even though Jason Tatum is still a great young player. He's one of the best players right now, young players in this league. But I do have Heat winning just because I think Jimmy Butler's, it's time for him to take over because he's been in the league for a long period of time and he's battled with the best of them. So I have Warriors and Heat. Don't ask about who I think is going to win. We're just going to see what's going to happen in these conference finals. And you heard it here first. Those are the predictions. We're going to hold on to this show to see if Dad's right, to see if Jeremiah's right, to see if I'm right. We're going to definitely see what's going to happen. That wraps up tonight's show. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Dad, for always talking sports. It's going to be a very interesting rest of the playoffs. We're going to see what's going to happen. We'll see you here next week on Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more sports talk, more NFL talk. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll be right back, and we'll see you here next week. Good night.